Hey everybody, Michelle here. I'm back with another spooky Reddit story. I am now moving on from the stories we were doing about how people became a believer in the paranormal, and I'm moving on to some creepier stuff, some more interesting paranormal topics. Today's story is about a potential Wendigo sighting. So I'm going to read this for you and you tell me what you think in the comments. This is episode 7, so if you've missed 1 through 6, please scroll back. If you have not, please hit that follow for me so that you're getting my videos. And as always, I really appreciate it if you repost these so that they are getting out to people. These videos always have the kind of black and white-ish filter here, so they're easier to find in my feed as they do have other content. So without further ado, here we go. So this story is titled Hunted by a Wendigo. I had an experience with a Wendigo this fall in early October in northern Minnesota in a state forest very close to, if not on, a reservation. I've always heard that the speaking of them can draw them to you, but I hadn't thought of or listened to any of the Wendigo stories any time close to my encounter. I was staying with some very dear friends. I'll call them M and C. And they have a camper in their yard by the lake for guests to sleep in. I had walked down to the camper from the house with my miniature dachshund Ebony around midnight and found that I needed to set some things up, primarily the heater. By the time I was done getting everything in order, it was approximately 1:30 a.m. I never thought to lock the door, really, because I figured I'm in the middle of the woods, so there was nothing to worry about, right? I was wrong. I had closed the curtains, thank God, and I was having trouble falling asleep because my anxiety was going mad. M&C's dogs were barking outside, and their geese wouldn't stop honking. Ebony, who usually sleeps under the covers, was sitting on her hip while I laid on my side, and I could feel her turning her head back and forth like she was trying to track something outside. I tried tucking her under the blankets to calm her down, but she kept returning to her perch on my hip. I have no idea how long I laid there. I would say at least 40 minutes when all of a sudden I heard M's voice outside the camper. "Anybody in there?" And what sounded like claws dragged down the side of the camper. I almost called back to, quote-unquote, her when I realized, number one, she and C were both fast asleep by now, and number two, M knew I was in there. She wouldn't ask if anybody was. Suddenly I noticed everything had gone absolutely silent outside. The dogs and the birds and everything that had been going stopped carrying on. The gusts of wind even stopped. It was the kind of silence you hear in horror stories, how the woods go mute when something evil is in the area. And then another thought hit me. Ebony would be losing her shit and barking at the door if there had been anything human. She was frozen on my hip, dead quiet, shaking. I didn't dare to move, but I was really starting to have to go to the bathroom. And I remembered that I hadn't locked the door. I have no idea how long I lay there debating whether I should get up and use the bathroom and lock the door, but it felt like an eternity. In reality, I guessed it was maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I thought it may have been a skinwalker at first, but I remembered they don't mimic the voices of your loved ones to lure you into the woods. Wendigos do, though. I knew these creatures, demons, whatever they are, can lure humans out of their abodes if they make eye contact with you, and everything in me was screaming to make sure I did not look outside. I made doubly sure that I didn't look through any cracks in the curtains, as well as I walked softly to the front of the camper, very slowly turned the lock, praying and holding my breath. I made sure to keep my eyes away from the windows as I crawled back into bed. I pulled Ebony close, and she had finally stayed under the blankets. I snuck a peek at my phone for the time before I laid down, figuring it had to be close to 3 a.m., the witching hour. It was about 2:30. As I laid down, the wind kicked back up, and M&C's basset hounds erupted into howls as they came running to the camper and a little ways into the trees, and the geese started their noise again. I heard the bassets come back to the camper, barking a few more times before they laid down outside the door to protect me. I didn't get out of bed again that night. I told M and C what had happened the next morning. I think I was hoping M would say she had come down to check on me and Ebony, but she confirmed what I already knew. They had gone to bed as soon as I had left the house. I said a prayer over their house, the camper, and all of us the following night and had an uneventful night, thank God. Sorry guys, that was kind of a long one, but I thought it was really interesting. So, what are your thoughts? Do you actually believe it was a Wendigo? Do you think it was an overactive imagination, perhaps? Or something paranormal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thank you for listening, and I really do appreciate it. Please make sure to repost this and get this out to others, and go back and find stories 1 through 6 and take a listen to those. Some of those are a little bit shorter than this one. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.